I remember it like yesterday when Matt came down the stairs and said so casually with a smile, I booked a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. I thought to myself, is this real? Can we really leave our amazing careers, friends, and family? Fast forward 10 months later, after all the hard conversations, endless checklists, and heartfelt goodbyes, we were heading to the airport with one backpack each, about to set out for a multi-year adventure around the world. Filled with excitement, we had no idea what to expect, but we knew it would be a fun ride. Join us as we share what we are learning on our journey of a lifetime. This is Passport Joy Travel Talk with Nikki and Matt Javid.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. This is Matt and Nikki Javid with PassportJoy.com Travel Talk, and we really appreciate it. We've been on the road for 20 months now, traveling the world, and our goal is to provide some value in this podcast and on the website. We are currently in Bali, Indonesia, enjoying this amazing island not far from the beach. Is our little Airbnb that we're staying at for about a month, and we're looking forward to everything that this island has to offer and seeing different parts of it along the way. Today's podcast is about Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Singapore. We spent a little over 2 weeks in those locations. Today, we're going to share with some of the tips and things that we learned about them and all the stuff that we loved about it along the way. We get asked often, how can we support the podcast? We put in a lot of time and effort into this, and it's all for free. It's obviously a lot of effort on our part, but we're enjoying it along the way. But if you want to support us, the new and best way you can do that is through passportjoy.com/Amazon. This is basically our Amazon store. It's not products that we're selling, but these are all the products that we love. We show the books we love, all the favorite things we're missing from home, our travel clothes, our electronics, like stuff for this podcast, the adapter that we use, backpack that we both have and everything that's inside it, our favorite locks and stuff like that. And also have a little section on there for barber stuff as well, with the face and beard and things that we use on the road and some of the stuff that I used to use at home. So if you want to support us in any way, and you're going to go on Amazon anyway, just go on passportjoy.com/Amazon. It takes you to our store. It's easy. It's real laid out. It's actually through a program on Amazon. It's called their influencer program. And it's a way that they help set up these store fronts for people that are doing kind of like what we're doing. And we can share all the items that we love. So that's a great way to do that. And we really appreciate those that have been doing that already over this past week or so. And now I'm excited as well that with World Barbershop Adventures, we released Pattaya, Thailand. So check that episode out. If you haven't already on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. The subscriptions are growing and I'm loving it. And the feedback on these episodes has been really positive as well. And it's been great to hear. But again, on the World Barbershop Adventures, Pattaya, Thailand has hit. My buddy Chris is in there. We do 2 barbershop visits. We do Muay Thai fighting. If you're digging this from an audible standpoint, that's kind of the visual aspect of the travels. And it's a lot of fun. So subscribe on that YouTube channel when you go over there, and that's about it. And then if you're just catching up, if you're here you just started listening to the podcast and you're catching up and you want to figure out like, where have these guys gone? What countries have they been to? Go to the Journey So Far tab on PassportJoy.com. That's the easiest way to get caught up. It shows you about 30 plus countries now as we've made our way around the world over these 20 months. And it lists out all the months and the countries that we've been in and all the links in there. That makes it easy to go through for you to understand all the things that we've done and all the places that we recommend along the way. And in case you break away before we recap on the end, a great way to stay in touch with us is through the newsletter to understand all the things that we're doing. So go to passportjoy.com for that and sign up for the weekly newsletter. It's the highlights. I send out a note every Thursday of everything that's coming up, stuff that we've done, and it's just a chance to read about all the cool stuff that's happening and also other travel tips we share along the way. All right, let's get into this episode. All right, let's talk about Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, And then we're also going to talk about Singapore. After that, we spent 9 days in Kuala Lumpur, 6 days in Singapore. And we were coming off a trip to Thailand where we hung out for a little over 2.5 weeks. And a good portion of that was with our friends. So going to Kuala Lumpur was a chance for us to kind of get back into a groove after kind of partying and stuff with our friends and being on a different type of schedule. And it gave us a chance to get back into a flow and see a new city for us, a brand new city. We'd never been to Kuala Lumpur, never been to any parts of Malaysia. So we ended up just staying focused in the city itself for our time there. We had an Airbnb. I guess you can describe it as more of an authentic part of town called Bukit Bintang is the area. And it was definitely more like based on the part of town we were in, it's kind of a worker community, very local. And it was close to a lot of the markets that we wanted to go to anyway. And that's why the ratings were really good on Airbnb. And the price was extremely competitive. So we ended up being in like this kind of like a high-rise apartment with pretty good accommodations and a nice shower, a nice bed and everything, decent Wi-Fi after we had to switch rooms at one point, but had a pool. But it was definitely one of the nicer apartments in that neighborhood because surrounding the neighborhood was some kind of lower income housing type stuff. So when we'd walk to the convenience store or walk to the market, we were a part of a cool, awesome community. And I guess to take a step back, Kuala Lumpur, some of the positives about it that we found is English was spoken by a lot of people. So you could really get around town really easy. A very diverse, multicultural city where a large Indian population, a large Middle East population, and a very strong Muslim culture. We could hear the call of prayer at least, I think, 3 times a day, 5 times a day. A couple of those we'd probably sleep through, but it felt very safe walking the streets. But there's a lot of activity on the streets as well. When you walk down the streets, it's one of those places where kind of a more aggressive culture when they're trying to solicit their goods and services. So you have a lot of the pulling of, hey, you want to buy this or you want to get this done. There's a lot of street activity. And we enjoy that. We enjoy the more authentic part of it. And there was really a divide where within Kuala Lumpur, some of the authentic neighborhoods that we're describing that we were in, then you could go into the downtown area where the malls were, and it was extremely nice, high level, upscale shopping. One of the malls was called the Pavilion, and massive European luxury retailers, Versace, Louis Vuitton, things like that. So we had a chance to walk around that big mall and check that out and really just see the town. And we went on some long walks and took it all in. But it was a very sticky, sweaty, humid type of atmosphere. Rained a ton while we were there, and we were there during a rainy season. So we knew that going in, and luckily we kind of knew that, and we coming off 2 weeks of, like I said, hanging out with our friends. So it gave us time to just kind of chill some of the nights and get some stuff done. So partly with just getting back into our neighborhood again, it was really cool because there was these night markets that would be set up mostly, it seemed like every night, although we didn't go out there every night, but it looked like it was more geared towards Thursday through Sunday. But awesome food, all kinds of Malaysian food, but a lot of Chinese food, a lot of seafood. And then all the vendors would have their things where they were trying to pull you in and get you to come to the restaurant. And then there would be street entertainment walking up and down the streets where they would play music for the restaurant attendees and then not really beg for money, but it was one of those things where they would perform and then ask for money. And there was all kinds of different people walking up and down that street and awesome views, sensory overload with the smells and the sights and everything that was going on. So that area was probably my favorite. And then once you go up further in the street, then you had like real big street performers doing music, large crowd gatherings, and then people selling goods on the streets. And then they had one full street for massages. And then they had another huge bar district that we didn't really go into, but we walked the street. We didn't go into any bars, but it seemed like the prices were decently priced. I wouldn't call them cheap, but good prices. And that seemed to be a big Western hangout where a ton of Westerners and travelers would go. And there was street performers with fire one night that we saw there. We loved our area. I'd highly recommend staying there. There's a lot of luxury hotels down, I guess you call it downtown. But if you had the opportunity to go to Bukit Bintang, that was the area that we stayed in, and we really liked that.
Yeah, within that area, there's a couple other things that were just a short walking distance away. So Matt had mentioned that one of the malls was called the Pavilion KL. Within that mall, I don't remember how many stories it was, but I want to say it was definitely over 5. It was a lot of upscale shopping. And then you also had a short distance away from that. You could have walked it. We did one time and walked by it, but it was quite a walk. It was about a 30-minute walk. So a quick grab or taxi right away. You could go to the KLCC shopping center. And this is where it is connected to what's called the Petronas Twin Towers. And those are the tallest twin towers actually in the world. And so they're really cool. During the day, I mean, they just they look like huge, large skyscrapers. But at night, they're really cool to see when they're all lit up, and you can try to get a picture of yourself in front of them or whatever from a really neat angle somewhere in the city. You can ask pretty much any bystander or local, I should say, where's the best place that I can take a picture of myself in front of the Twin Towers. But the KLCC shopping center is kind of like the Pavilion, although on a larger scale. So that's a 6-story shopping center. It has shops, it has rides, it has a cinema, it has its own supermarket in it, and a lot of good food courts. And a lot of people go to this food court. It's called the Rasa Food Court, and it has food from all over Malaysia. And it's a really just neat place to go and hang out. And especially if you're in the mood for some shopping, they have great shopping there. Another place that we went, I think Matt mentioned it, was Chinatown. Super quick to get to from the area that we stayed in. It took us about a 20-minute walk from where we were. But again, a lot of it is the knockoffs that you see of the real goods. So you have your fake Louis Vuitton and Coach bags and things like that. But they really do have some nice things that you can get. So they have a lot of jewelry, scarves, and other handbags that are not fake knockoffs that you can buy for very, very, very cheap prices. So if you're due for a new backpack or something like that, then you can find really cute things there, and you can always bargain your way to a price point that is good for you. They have a lot of good food, but I would say that the food in Chinatown, in my opinion, is more geared towards the tourists and the expats. So when you see noodle bowls and you see tofu for $10, and that's on the high end. You can go in more authentic areas like we were talking about and get really, really good cheap food that you shouldn't be paying that much money for. And a good thing about Chinatown is that, like we said, we were there during the rainy season. So this area is actually a covered market in some areas. So although you would walk down some of the side streets and they're not going to be covered, the majority of Chinatown has some sort of covering. So if it's raining and you don't have an umbrella or whatnot, you can shop, and for the most part, you'll stay dry. Another, I guess, cool thing to do if this is what you're into, and this is something that Matt and I really enjoy, is just visiting the various temples around. And so you'll see a lot of them, whether they're the main site attractions or the smaller ones around. But one of the, I guess, the better known or well-known or famous ones in KL or Kuala Lumpur is the Sri Mahamaraham Temple. And it's just basically across the street from Chinatown. And so it's notorious for being the famous one for being the oldest Hindu temple in all of Kuala Lumpur. And you can notice it from a couple blocks away because it's super colorful and it's easy recognizable, but it has this large facade featuring a bunch of Hindu deities in vibrant colors. And yeah, it's a good photo opportunity. And just like any other temple that you visit, just make sure you dress appropriately. You do have to take off your shoes and your socks before you enter in, but it's a really neat and peaceful thing to do. I don't know. That's really all I have to talk about that area.
Yeah, and then closer to us, we ate within these 8 or 9 days, we ate a ton of Indian food. Like I said, the Indian culture was huge there, and we found this place right by our Airbnb we were staying, and it was awesome. I'll put a link in the show notes because the name of the joint's not it was like TC's Indian food or something like that. But it was like it was open air. These guys they would make everything right there, the awesome naan, fresh naan right there. But we ate there almost, I wouldn't say every day, but probably 5 times we ate there while we were there. And God dang, it was so delicious. And it was extremely cheap. I think it was like $4 or something every time we ate there. But the service was great. They were real nice people. That's the type of thing you can get there, whether you want like Vietnamese food, Indian food, whatever your take is on the different food is, you can definitely find it. Because like I said, it's a huge multicultural vibe there. And then the night markets as well, they're scattered all over town. There's a bunch of them. But something interesting that I found was, obviously I'm doing this World Barbershop Adventure. We're doing this World Barbershop Adventure thing now. And one of the barber that ended up cutting my hair, he talked to me about how much the barbers actually set up at these night markets, and they cut hair from 7 p.m. till 3 a.m. So a lot of these guys work their tail off. Not only will they'll work a job during the day, but then they'll also go and work at night as well. So I found that really interesting and a lot of fun. And then I also had a chance to go to the TPC Kuala Lumpur, the PGA event. I had a buddy back home, Vince, that hooked me up with a ticket, an entry to get into the event based on his connections. And I went in and it was a blast. The course there in Kuala Lumpur is gorgeous, very green, because like I said, it rains damn near every day. And from that rain, it gets really green and lush. It was a beautiful course. And it was one of those things, I've been to PGA events before in America, and the crowds can be enormous. That was not the case here. Even when I was following the leader group, there was only probably 50 or 60 people following the leaders. In this case, they ended up being Mark Leishman, I think it was, that won it. But even the group that he was in, my connection was with Gary Woodland, but it was crazy that only about 50 to 60 people were following these top guys. And if you've never been to a PGA event, it is one of the coolest ways to get close to professional athletes and just see them do their work and their craft in such a close proximity. And that was the case at this event because there was really nobody there. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's about it with Kuala Lumpur. We really dug it. First time in Malaysia. We'll definitely go back to Malaysia, spend time in other parts that are offered there, because it's a gorgeous country and the people were really kind, and it was easy to navigate with obviously Grab. Download the app Grab. Tons of Airbnbs, and very visitor and traveler friendly. So something you need to consider in your plans, that Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia are easy to get around on. All right, from there, we went to Singapore, which flying into the airport, oh my God, this airport is unbelievable. It's one of the top, or I think it is the top in the world, has been voted top in the world. It's like a mall. It's like, picture the best mall that you ever been to and multiply it, because that's what it is. It's got all kinds of awesome shops and gorgeous decor, gardens. They've got moving...
They have moving artwork. They have a butterfly garden. They have shopping. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every airport you go to is going to be phenomenal, right? But this airport, it was super clean. And I don't know, everything seemed to just flow. And
what about the
it's very busy.
And the automation of the check-in. How about this? So when we were leaving, the passport process is all automated. They have very little human interaction. It's like essentially the future. And Singapore itself is there in the future. This is a world-class city, an amazing city, and we loved it. And that the first stop you take in their airport is like a reflection of their city, because it is amazing. But the amount of human interaction you have, even when it comes to your passport and checking in and all that, is extremely limited. So check this out. When we're going to fly out of Singapore at the very end, even going onto our airplane was the process where when we got on an Air Asia flight, and Air Asia, by the way, is a budget airline, they had a automated ticket scanner check-in process where they had a person up there, but she didn't do anything really. She just made sure that you put your ticket on the scanner correctly, and it just flew. The line just flew by, and it was really nice. The whole airport is amazing, and it's a lot of fun. So we actually built in time when we were leaving to make sure that we had a chance to check it out. We were happy that we did because it's essentially a mall, and then their lounge was one of the best. So, Nick and I are huge lounge fans. If you travel to the airport more than a few times a year, it is definitely worth it to have a priority pass, lounge pass, and that's what we had. We got one free through our credit card that we use, and so we love using the priority pass. And in Singapore's, we made sure we got there early to use the Singapore lounge, and oh my God, it's unbelievable food, open bar, nice rest area, clean bathrooms. It was just a really nice experience. So Singapore, once you land, it is a great way. It's a great first impression of this amazing city. So we were there for the ITB Asia travel convention, and it hit my radar probably 4 or 5 months ago. And then as we began to line it up, it made sense for us to attend it. And essentially, it's a travel convention that's focused towards Asia and getting those agencies, whether it's travel agencies, tourism boards, and basically travel professionals to focus on how do they get people to come to Asia, travelers to come to Asia. But it was also countries from all around the world were there as well. So you had a large European, basically every European country was reflected. I would almost say like the only country that wasn't well represented was probably Africa, but there was still like Kenya, Egypt, Morocco was there. There was still a lot of African countries. South Africa was there. Of the 195 so countries in the world, I would bet 120 of them were there at least. It was a lot of fun. We had a chance to interact with a lot of travel professionals, and that is an upbeat group. That was a lot of fun to be around that many positive, energetic people that love to do their job, and everybody's happy to talk about all the cool stuff that their country has to offer, and like even countries that we didn't really have on our radar or kind of on our radar now. Like this gentleman from Luxembourg essentially offered for us to stay in his castle, and we might for a day, but we might take him up on it now and go to Luxembourg and see what that's all about. But yeah, so that's all it was. Is essentially we spent 3 days there, jumping around these different booths, talking to different tourism guide people and all the folks that love their country, and then we interacted with them that way. And then during that process as well, there was people from the wellness industry that gave educational speeches around the huge gaps in the wellness profession and tourism. Technology obviously is a huge player in travel. So we had a chance to learn a bunch, and we won a few prizes. They had these drawings where we put our name into, and we had to walk around different booths and get us in there. But we ended up winning a few prizes, which is freaking awesome. So our first 3 days were spent in an Airbnb with an amazing Chinese woman that has lived in Singapore for many years. And she was a sweetheart. Her name was Alice. And we stayed in her side room, which was totally enough for our 3 day stay there. Had a great shower and everything. And her house had a ton of decor from China. And I mean a ton. It was a lot, but she was awesome, and she was a ton of fun. And it was a blast hanging out with her. She was always like going out and dancing and stuff. And then from there, we transitioned to a friend of mine. I call him a friend now. His name's John. He lives in Singapore, has lived in Singapore for quite some time with his French-Polish wife, and they have a new child. But here's how kindness works. So my buddy Joe set it up to meet John. We exchanged emails over the last month and a half or so once we knew we were coming to Singapore. And this guy, not knowing me at all, he was college buddies with Joe. Joe lined us up, and then he met us out, gave us the key. He actually even bought us the drinks and everything for that night. Guy's an amazing, kind guy. And then he lets us stay in his super awesome condo that overlooked the city for 3 nights while they were out of town in the Maldives. So they weren't even there for the weekend, and they let us stay in his place. Just such kindness that obviously we're extremely appreciative of that. But it was just a great reflection of how open and kind people can be because we've had opportunities to visit with people in other parts of the world that didn't work out for whatever reason. They disappear on us, they don't respond, or something happens where they get busy and it just can't coordinate. But for people to step up like that and make it happen, when there's no obligation or anything like that, it's just really cool reflection of humankind and how awesome people can be. So there we are in Singapore for a total of 6 days. And the event is at the Marina Bay Sands, which we now know is where that movie, the recent movie was shot. Crazy Rich Asians was shot at the top of that. So now apparently it's getting more and more popular, the Marina Bay Sands. That whole area, I guess we call it like a bay. The harbor is just gorgeous. It is just gorgeous. It's like a big rectangle that everybody runs around. The activity right after their workday, because Nikki and I would go to this convention from about 9 a.m. till a little after 5, about 6 o'clock. The convention would end at 5, and we just hang around for about an hour on email. But then we'd walk around 6, and it was just high activity of people just running, and there's people working out. And you talk about the workout situation.
Yeah, so their workout culture outside is really fabulous. And I wish I've never really seen this anywhere else, especially in a large city. But the people all around would be in like little workout breakout groups or, running on their own. Of course, you see that everywhere. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. People run on their own on Lakeshore Drive. People run all over the place. But, and you might see little workout groups along certain, like hiking trails or running trails. But this was like the next level. So these workout groups were everywhere. I'm talking, you find a patch of grass, it's there. If there's a piece of a slab of concrete, they're on it. If it's the front of a hotel and there is like space available, they're doing burpees in like a class of 15 people. And you can see clearly that someone is leading the group, whether it be, I don't know if it was a professional personal trainer or maybe just a friend who is really good at doing this and leading people. It was just awesome. I mean, I can't imagine, like even in the smaller version of a city where I'm currently living in Indianapolis, like I can't imagine going on the front steps of the Marriott because there's a huge marble slab available and taking a crew of, 10 of my girls along and we're doing like, sit-ups and burpees and jumping jacks. Like people would, I think the management team would be like, I'm sorry, you have to move out of the way because there's people trying to check in. So it was just really cool to see that. And then there's people just with like yoga mats outside anywhere. I mean, I'm telling you, anywhere you could find a spot, everyone was working out. I mean, hundreds of people. And I just thought it was a really cool workout culture to just do that and like have no shame in your game and just work out wherever you want with a group of people. And I don't know, I just thought that it would just be a fun thing to do.
And it was really cool because the whole area is extremely photogenic and the views are amazing with the colors and the boats that are cruising around, and they have this fish statue that shoots out water, and so everybody's taking selfies around this area. But then you got these people working out, so it's travelers and locals all mixed in together, and then there's all kinds of places to eat around there. And it was a lot of fun. And Singapore is extremely clean. I guess they have a lot of fines, so you can't necessarily chew gum there. If you smoke and you throw your cigarette on the ground, you could potentially get fined. If you litter, you can get fined. So there's a lot of fines. That's what our host Alice said. She goes, Singapore is a fine country, and that's the play on words there is because they fine for everything. But honestly, you don't see the cops anywhere. We didn't see any police officers anywhere. We saw 2 police officers, but they were really mixed in really well. But apparently, if you're going to get a fine, they come out of the woodwork pretty quickly and make that happen. But we loved our time. We spent a lot of time in that Marina Bay, obviously because of the convention, and had a chance to walk around there. And we had drinks there one night with my buddy John that I mentioned. And then we had a chance to see some of the other more authentic parts of town as well. I guess Singapore is, like I described, new age, technology driven, gorgeous. They're living in the future. Grabs were great there, but it is not cheap at all. It's one of the more expensive cities that we've been in, but there are ways to do it cheaper that we found over time, that once we had a chance to stay there long enough that we understood the transportation system's cheap. So getting around is cheap. You can find different areas, whether it's Chinatown, Little India, places where you can eat cheaper. So there's ways that you can really take in parts of the culture. Like I said, there's, because it's kind of new age, it's a multicultural atmosphere, but I wouldn't say it's one of those places where it feels, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it doesn't feel like what we described in Kuala Lumpur with the street vendors and stuff like that. There's not a ton of that, but Little India does have a great vibe to it. Arab Street has its own vibe to it, though it's still kind of upscale and a little bit touristy. Chinatown has a wonderful vibe to it, but it's clean, man. The whole city is so clean. So some of that authentic vibe is lost in that, but it's really nice though to still walk around and check those places out and vibe there. So India Town is what it sounds like. It's a great, strong Indian culture. They've got a lot of great Indian food. We ate there on one night and that was a lot of fun. They've got a lot of markets there to check stuff out. Chinatown was cool because we had a chance to go to not only the amazing colors within Chinatown, but we had a chance to go to the cheapest Michelin star restaurant in the world. It's called Hong Kong Soya Sauce Chinese Rice and Noodle. It's a long name. It's basically street food, but in a restaurant environment, and they're known for their chicken. So I got a chicken plate, and I ended up eating pork as well with some noodles. They had amazing tofu that Nikki had. And they serve beer there, and it's extremely like a humble setting. The vibe's good because there's a ton of people going in and out, and it is really, really cheap, especially for Singapore, because our final bill was about $20. I went up and got seconds. So overall, we spent less than probably $24 US on a dinner, and that was drinks included. And I did have one beer, so extremely cheap for Singapore and cheap overall, especially when you talk about a Michelin star restaurant. But I know my chicken was delicious. It'd be a place where I'd go to probably a lot if I lived there. And I'll put the link in the show notes. So if you ever have a chance to visit Singapore, it's definitely somewhere that you want to visit.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd piggyback off of what Matt was saying is that the Little India area is just an area that serves like Indian food. You can buy saris there. There's lots of colorful temples and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's kind of, I guess the vibe that they're going for is to mock as if you're in some sort of city in India. I don't know what city they're trying to do, but it's kind of like it's you can smell incense when you're walking down the streets. There's tons of colorful flowers that they're hand making that you can bring with you. You can purchase and then bring with you along with you to the temples. All of the eateries are selling either northern or southern Indian food. So that's the vibe that's going on there. And it's just streets and streets and streets upon streets of that over and over and over again. And it's just a really cool vibe. And, you know, it's a mix of Indian families who actually live in Singapore who are there and shopping in the Indian grocery stores probably for their weekly food, and then eating their meals at the restaurants because that's the type of food that they want to eat. And then again, expats who live there who like that type of food. And then tourists like us who are going there because we enjoy that type of food as well. And then again, there's an Arab street in Haji Lane, which is a similar type of vibe, so to speak, but they focus more on Middle Eastern and Turkish type of food. But as Matt had mentioned, they are definitely, I guess that area is definitely more upscale. So it's not the little stalls that are selling like trinkets and the cheaper version of stuff. The stores in this area is very, I would say, they're very upscale. So they're little shop houses, they're quirky, there are a lot of boutiques, they showcase lots of like hipster type things, a lot of independent designers like showcasing their artisan goods. So I guess what I noticed is that the stores in this area, it's not like you can find any of the goods that are sold in this area anywhere else. So I guess that's a bonus if you were to go there, but it's not cheap if you're shopping on Haji Lane. I did notice a lot of barbershops intermixed in this area, in both areas, so to speak. So in Little India and in Haji Lane. So if you need to get a haircut, you can get that there. But in Haji Lane, the shops were selling like vintage lamps and like boutique clothing. There was a lot of cafes where you could drink Turkish coffee, things like that. So I saw a lot of cute dresses and hats and accessories. And again, I mean, stuff that I would love to buy and pack with me in my suitcase and take home, but I just don't have room right now. So I just wanted to make that note.
And then at night, we went there at night and they had the outdoor music a lot of different musicians outdoors were playing, and then people would have their table set out, and they would be drinking right in this little street there. It was easy to walk through, but then as you're walking through it, you get a chance to feel the entertainment as well, and that was cool. And as you're walking through, you can just get a true sense of the multicultural vibe that's going on in Singapore between tourists and locals alike. But like we said, though, going out was extremely expensive just from the alcohol prices. So that's another point. The tax structure as far as how they handle alcohol makes their alcohol extremely expensive. We haven't never seen prices like this. We walked by one liquor store and just looked in at some of the prices for whiskey and whatnot, and it was more than I've seen in my life. The prices were nuts, even with the conversion rates at USD. So, and the beers are about $8 each at the bars and pubs. So, if you're going there to go out, you got to make sure that you get the right budget mixed in. But there was 14 Singaporean dollars. The $8 beers that was like a happy hour situation. And that was kind of like a Tiger. That's like a Tiger Thai beer and stuff like that. Like a Corona or a regular type of beer would cost you about 14 Singapore, which is about 10 to 11 bucks US right in there. I tell you, we walked away. So Singapore is on a lot of lists for the best places to move for expats. There's a lot of things driving that. Very friendly tax structure, English speaking language, and their jobs pay a lot. With that said, though, when you would talk to the working class there, some of the folks that drove us in Grabs or some of the folks we had a chance to interact with in restaurants or on the street, it's tough. It's tough for them. And you would see a lot of the working class that came in for construction and whatnot. They typically have to live outside of the city, outside of the main part, which is, I guess that's as common as well in America. If you live downtown in a major city, you're going to pay for it. But it just seems like the structure there is, the common theme that we heard is like, yeah, it's a great place to live, but you got to make a lot of money. Because their healthcare is good, there's all kinds of great factors, and it's a futuristic city. So it seems to be an amazing place to live, but you gotta make some coin in order to enjoy it. I'm so happy with it. It's a place that we talked about visiting for quite some time, and be able to get there with through this travel convention. And it's definitely a place where we'll go back to because there's a lot more to explore. We saw some of the cultural places like we named here, Little India, Arab Street, Chinatown, and then obviously the downtown area. But there's a lot of pockets of Singapore that we didn't get a chance to see. Again, it's a city of about 6 million people. It's massive and it's spread out nicely, but it's not huge. You don't feel it at all, especially with their transportation, like their buses and the train. It wasn't packed like a city of that size. You would think it would be more crowded in different places. We never got that sense because we feel like they got it organized well. Everything's high end, and it just doesn't seem as busy as what a city of that size should feel. We loved it. It's a lot of similarities to Tokyo, but extremely safe, extremely fun too. So that is it. That's our wrap up on Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. Definitely two places that we hope to get back to when talking about Malaysia and Singapore. And we hope this helps you. We'll share some links in the show notes to help you navigate as well. And hopefully, if you get a chance to visit, you'll have a blast.
During our travels, we use the Skyscanner app. It's a comprehensive, fast way to compare millions of flights to find you the cheapest deal. They also find hotels or car hires. When you find your flights and click to book, Skyscanner will link you through directly to the airline or travel agent and never charge you a commission, and there are no hidden fees. We love the unique price alert email that will alert you if the price of your flight goes up or down. This service is totally free of charge, and you can change your alerts or unsubscribe at any time. Matt loves Skyscanner because you can search for flights by alternative airports and dates. The app allows you to be creative and save money. Check out passportjoy.com/scan. Again, passportjoy.com/scan to learn more about Skyscanner and why we love it. We are big fans of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is the world-renowned business and life coach. prior to leaving for our extended travel journey, we attended the Tony Robbins event. It was called Unleash the Power Within. It happened in San Jose, California. It was a 3.5-day immersive event focused on breaking through your limitations so that you can have the most extraordinary life. And the event focused on personal growth and personal goals. And as most of you know, Matt attributes most of his success to Tony and thought leaders just like Tony. And I'll admit, and up until Matt had asked me to come along with him to the Unleash the Power Within event, I had zero interest in events like this. And I'm really glad I said yes and I attended the event. The event to me was so much more than the knowledge that I gained from it. It was the energy that was there. It was palpable. And while I was there, I just felt awakened and a sense of renewal that I had never felt before. I even made a really good friend that I still talk to this day. Everything from financial freedom to health and relationships was discussed. This event had a profound effect on how I view life. The events like this are not cheap, but honestly, I just look at it as an investment in yourself. Check out passportjoy.com/Tony. Again, passportjoy.com/Tony to check out more information about events like this. And to check out more tips and tools we use during our travels, check out passportjoy.com/tools.
And that is it for this episode. Thank you so much again for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. This really helps Nikki and I get in front of new travel listeners that might not be aware of our story. It helps with rankings and whatnot on Apple. And also, thank you so much for leaving some great reviews like this one that was recently left on Apple. It says, I think what Matt and Nikki are doing is so cool, and I love being able to travel with them. Keep it up. Really appreciate that feedback. It helps us a ton, and taking the time to do that is very kind. As always, I list out all the important links in the show notes. If you go to passportjoy.com under the podcast tab, you'll see all the things that we talked about today, including the Michelin star restaurant that we talked about that you need to go visit if you ever go to Singapore. And you can follow along with all of our updates in the weekly newsletter that comes out every Thursday by signing up at the website, passportjoy.com. You can find also at the website our blog posts, travel tips and tools, all of our social media links, and everything else. All right. Thank you so much. We will be back again next week. And also go check out World Barbershop Adventures. If you haven't already, the new episodes are being released about every 7 to 10 days. And we love that. And subscribe while you're there. All right. Check you soon.